Often when we speak about disasters of this scale, we reduce it to numbers, right? We don't know yet the names of the people who died in this disaster in central Johannesburg last night. But what I'm trying to pull up for you are just the figures, the breakdown of that number. Close to 80 people who died here in the early hours of this morning as a fire destroyed what was previously a place of safety, which, like many other buildings, hundreds of buildings were told in the CBD, was eventually hijacked at the end of the lease. 24 of the dead are women, 40 were men, 10 bodies, as we sit here tonight, 10 bodies were burnt beyond recognition, which means they were burnt to such an extent that officials are not even able to say if those 10 people were men or women. Among the dead were 13 children. That is 13 innocent children who died in the early hours of this morning in this building in Marshalltown. The youngest of those children just a year old. And as we sit here tonight, many families are going to hospitals, hoping that what awaits them there will in fact be a loved one who, even if they've suffered serious burns, is still living. For others, the news wasn't as hopeful. They will now get messages. They'll get calls to say, sadly, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your niece or nephew has been killed in this fire. Linda Mnisi is another one of our reporters here in the Marshalltown area in Johannesburg. And Linda, give us a sense of what you are seeing where you are as night falls on this area, the community clearly still shaken.
Indeed, Tembekile, a lot of them, wanting to see the president as, of course, he addressed the media there. Many of them having heard in the streets that he would be coming down this evening to see for himself what happened here. But you speak about the people that lost their lives in that fire that ravaged that particular building. And, of course, over 70 families this evening mourning the loss of their loved ones. Some of whom don't even know really that their family members have perished in that fire. We spoke earlier to the Gauteng Health MEC, Nomantungo Morale-Huku, who reflected on what they've had to deal with throughout the day as they transported survivors to various hospitals. If I'm not mistaken, she told us that there were about 5 hospitals that were treating survivors who came out of that fire. Of course, the numbers kept on trickling in, and as I left the Helen Joseph Hospital this afternoon, what they were telling us was that the mortuaries had received about 74 bodies and 4 body parts, and they're hoping that as, of course, the investigations continue in that building, more bodies will be found. You spoke earlier about the people who were burnt beyond recognition, and the forensic pathologists are thinking about ways in which families can identify their loved ones. They've now opted for DNA, saying that that's how they're going to be identifying those bodies as the families come to identify their bodies. Maybe tomorrow. They're telling us that, in fact, they've taken most of their bodies to the Diepkloof Forensic Pathology Services. That's the Diepkloof mortuary in Soweto, which can house all of those bodies, given, of course, the fact that they need to make additional storage for them. This is a department, Tembekile, that was struggling earlier this year with many unclaimed bodies, saying that they're taking up space and calling on families to identify them. Today, they're receiving over 70 bodies that need to be stored. But I'm joined now by a resident of that particular building who will give us a sense of what she's feeling this evening. The president has just come and addressed, the nation on this particular issue of the burnt building, and he says this is a wake-up call for them. They don't want this tragedy to happen. What do you make of that?
Indlela nje angazi ukuthi ngachaza ngithini indlela engizizwa ngayo njengamanje silahlekelwe asazi ukuthi sola laphi kuyimanje.
Ngitshele bowuhlala nobani khona lapha, nihlala kanjani?
Bengihlala nosisi wami, behlala nje sibawu2 besishare ngoba irent besikhokha u1.6.
nihlala endaweni enjani mawungasichazela nje ukuthi indawo benihlala kuyo beyinjani basitshelile earlier ukuthi bekwakhe istructure phakathi kwebuilding ungasichazela ukuthi indawo yakhona beyinjani
abanye ngathini Malawi bekwenziwe lokhu ukuthi ama-room kube ngathi maningi phakathi kube kuyi-room elilodwa kodwa thina behlala sobawu-2 besingahlukanisanga nje bekuyi-room nje elinormal.
Makwenzeka lesigameko somlilo ngichazela ukuthi nizwe ngobani isikhathi nizweni niboneni
isikhathi beku-12 kuyoshaya u1 ngizwa umsindo engathi kunabantu abalayo phandle kuyagijima ekumanje vele nginganaki because kuhlezi kunomsindo kuleli flat ngitshela ukuthi bayalwa bodwa ngoba kuhlezi kuliwe mangithi ngiyaqalaza ewindini kuyasha la engiphume khona ngavusa usisi wami ukuthi siphume nathi sibaleke
uphusiswa
ikhona nango la
irent yona beniyibhadala kubani
bese ibhadala komunye ubhuti umdu wasempangeni kodwa beyahlala khona la ukuthi kwamanje akekho
bekahlala nani khona
bekwamakhelwane wethu.
All right. This is one of the residents of that building, Tembekile, talking to us about how they've lost literally everything. It's a tragedy, and she describes how the fire broke out when they were sleeping. She thought it was normal noise, but when she peeped outside, she saw there was a lot of smoke, and that's when she woke her sister up and they left the building. It seems as though they both survived, because she's telling me that her sister is just around these people that you see behind me. Also talking about the issue around the rent and who they were paying the rent to. She says they were paying 1.6 to a gentleman called Mdu from Mbangeni who lived just next door to where they lived. Tembekile?